Hello. Good to see you.
You too. It's so long.
Yeah. How have you been? When was the last time we talked?
So, Alex, you are like another Martyite. That's what we
Yeah.
call ourselves. Tell them what you're doing now, where you're at, and what
Live
your
in
life is like.
Brooklyn, working at a restaurant, bussing tables, hate the job, and then still doing comedy every night though.
You have made stand-up comedy like your life. I mean,
Yeah. Well, at this point, yeah. I mean, I'm 18 when
yeah.
I got to LA. I was in LA at 18. Yeah. That's when I was moved to Los Angeles when I was 18.
But when did you start stand-up comedy though?
If you count Idaho, then I was 14. But that was just what I mean. When I was in Idaho, I got at best once a month if I was lucky. Like for the most part, I was barely going up at all, so I don't really count that time.
Talk about Marty's.
I met Marty literally like my fifth, like probably my fourth or fifth day in Los Angeles. He was hosting a Ha Ha Cafe. And I went to an open mic, just like, I mean, fuck it, I'll go check it out. I went to the Ha Ha Cafe. Me and Marty met, and then he got banned about 6 months later, and then he opened Marty's right afterwards. And then I remember I right towards the end before I got banned from Ha Ha, I was like, all right, I'll go check it out. So I ran in, I went to Marty's, I was like, all right, I like this spot. And then yeah, the rest is kind of history. There's never going to be a place quite like Marty's again because a lot of things kind of fall into place. Like in other words, there'll never be a place right in the middle of Hollywood that literally the mic is 7 hours a day, like literally, because the mic never ended at 11. And
Yeah.
the characters in there, they'll never, nothing will ever line up quite like that ever again in LA or New York City. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I don't, Marty's happened at the right time. That's what it was. Everything just lined up perfectly.
You guys lived there. So he like
Yeah,
he roomed out, he rented out this business, but it legitimately had a kitchen in there and bedroom. So it was set up
yeah,
like a
yeah.
living
Like we,
quarter.
yeah,
It was like the showroom was like your living room where you just kind of
yeah.
walk. It's so funny to me. I think it was therapy for a lot of people. It would be like 10:30 at night, and somebody comes in after a long day of work and life sucks and whatever's happening. And you can go up to Marty's, even if there's three of us, and you get on
Right.
stage and they could talk for like 10 minutes to sometimes an hour. And it was like,
Yeah.
it's therapy, I feel like.
Yeah. 100%. Also, the one thing that I always loved about Marty's was it was the vast personalities we had in there. Like there was like legitimate headlining comics who would come to Marty's, and then at the same time there'd be people like just doing it for the first time, and that just I don't know. Like I never knew a place in Hollywood where that just happened on a regular basis. You know, like the whole scene of it, like everyone went through Marty's at least once. At the end of the day, I was in my living room. Just like, well, am I really going anywhere? Like I could kind of chill at home and like, I mean, I could just kind of get up whatever. That's why it never bothered me getting bumped that bad. Cause like, well, I'm at home anyway, so I'm just chilling.
I
You
know.
know what's weird? The guy I've spoken to most since then is still Jeff. Like, I, I talked to Jeff like 6 months ago. The last time I talked to him, we weirdly kept in touch. Who knew that me and him would still be friends after all these years?
We wrote a pilot together, because a pilot about your life, specifically at
Right,
Marty's, which, by the way, everybody can write their own story for Marty's because there could be 100,000 stories for Marty's, but you
yeah,
lived there. If anybody's wondering what it's like to be a stand-up comedian in LA, give them like a rough outline of your life
right.
and go through it more specifically, because there's people that have no idea what it's like.
Well, it was basically 80 hours a week for the whole time I was there. Because by the time I was going to school, I was working a campus job and I was still doing comedy every single night. So there would be times in college where I was up at like 8 a.m. and I wouldn't get to sleep about 2 a.m. the next day. Like, and that was my life for a long time. If I want to describe Hollywood simply, it's an outright struggle. That's what it is. But some people might have it easier because, hey, they're white.
What?
Yeah, like
Don't bring
Hollywood still.
race into this. No, I'm just
Well,
joking.
I'm saying Hollywood still
Yeah.
tilts incredibly white. So yeah, maybe other people don't have to struggle as badly as I did. Is my point. Like, maybe someone else in Hollywood might make it easier because yeah.
I was going to say, explain what you mean by the struggle.
Well, like yeah, exactly. Not getting the opportunities I feel I've earned, but I mean, it's been for a million different reasons.
How many open mics did you do a day?
On average, about a day, 2 to 3. So I was doing about 15 a week, about
How
on
many are you
average.
doing in New York? There's a lot more in New
Uh,
York.
well, I do about 18 now. I'm probably about 18 or 18 to. No, it's probably about what I do.
That's so much.
Right.
Yeah. So somebody that
But
wants to do stand-up comedy, you really have to like go all in on it. It has to
yeah,
be a dedication.
yeah. kind of the point. Like Bill Burr made a good point. Like if you decide to do comedy, there's really no going back. Like you can't really consider quitting. That's kind of the point.
Have you felt like quitting before?
I mean, of course, I felt like the world was giving me signs to quit, but I never really wanted to. But there were times where I feel like, okay, I see why people quit. I'll put it that way.
Would you say the differences between doing comedy in New York and Hollywood are?
Okay, so here's how I've always broken it down. I feel like if, as a comic, this is just from a comedic standpoint, if you want to tighten up your jokes and make them as sharp as possible, then New York. But if you want to be a little more creative and kind of open yourself up that way, then Los Angeles. Los Angeles has more weirdness to it. So
I don't know. I think New York is such an intense place, and like it's such a real like you can't really bullshit in New York like you can in LA.
it's more of a schmooze town. Like New York City is more show me what you got on stage, and LA is more there's more schmooziness to LA. Like there's a lot more. There's a lot of yeah. That's kind of a way to describe it.
Because of that, I feel like you can't be as goofy. In LA, you can be weird and say really quirky, corny, goofy stuff, and in New York, it wouldn't fly. And I don't know what
I don't know. Pockets in Brooklyn, you might fly somewhere. There's definitely some weirdness in Brooklyn. Yeah,
No, you're
just
right.
find the right
Yeah.
spots. Yeah, like everyone. Look, I feel like if you're really good at stand up, either city is good. Like you just have to. I mean, the best comics in LA and the best comics in New York City are both, flip a coin, neck and neck. You know what I mean? Like there's really good comics on both sides of the country. And if I'm having a good month, I'll get maybe 5 to 6 shows a month. But then sometimes I'll have like 2 or 3 shows in a month. So it's kind of up and down. But like that's like a good month with me. It would be like 5 to 6 shows in a month. Like I think I should be getting booked at least 10 shows a month, but I'm sure every comic in the city thinks that. So all of us want to get booked more. That's every comic in the city that's not struggling. Like
Yeah. What's your goal with stand up? Because you're so driven. You're so driven that all you're thinking about is doing comedy.
I mean, in my dream scenario, I want to do a tour. Like I would love to go on the road 40, 50 weeks a year, get paid to do this. I mean, if it's just a buster salary at the end of the day, I'd do it.
One thing that I did not like about doing stand up, like when they're off the stage, they can't laugh and have fun because comics are supposed to be like ironic and weird and quirky. I hate that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I can see what you're talking about, but
It's like clicky or something. Being clicky doesn't progress a person's career. I thought when I started to do stand-up comedy, I was so excited. I'm like, I'm going to go and meet comedians and we're going to have fun. Oh my God. It was like walking into a rice cake factory. Their personalities. Have you ever eaten a rice cake that has no taste and is stale? A rice cake is the most disgusting thing. That's how people's personalities were. Just like it was not fun. You can't like go up to other comedians and banter and try to have fun. There's very few of them that are like that. I think the ones that are successful, actually, I take that back. Being at the Comedy Store, the ones that are successful and doing good, I feel like I felt more comfortable around them because they didn't have some like wall up where they were trying to be something. Like I could walk up to certain people and make jokes, and they were so cool and so much more relaxed. And I wonder if it's because people feel this level of competition. I don't know, they get protective of themselves and they're not where they want to be. So they put up a facade, whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I think up and coming comics have more insecurities because we are still trying to get into the business. What people who've already made it, like, okay, I'm part of this now. So I don't have to be that asshole anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because true, comedians inherently are selfish. Let's be honest. Comedians are inherently the most selfish people generally. I want to get the break before he does, or you know what I mean? Like there's that kind of competitiveness among comedians still coming up in the business. I mean, no one wants their jokes stolen. So I always say, like, look, try to write jokes that are unique enough they really can't be stolen. That's the best way to go about it.
This is my LA cactus.
Nice. It's sad, some of the LA scene. I mean, the fact that, look at how all the comics that have passed away in just the last year. Like, LA's been taking a boat. I mean, it's like, geez, it's been bad.
It's like family. When a comedian dies, it's like a family member has died.
Well, it's so weird because like I feel kind of removed from it since I haven't been in LA in over 5 years, and a lot of these comics I haven't talked to in years. But I just wonder what it's like in the scene. Like I feel like as you all go to the same mics, you basically run together. I mean, you find your clique in LA and you kind of just stick with it.
10 years ago, I was watching his comedy, and I'm like, he is so good. And I looked him up, and he had been doing it for 20 years. So 10 years ago, when he was at his height, he started 20 years earlier than that. So it takes so long sometimes if people look at the time invested in big name comedians, and it looks
Right.
so easy. It looks like they just
Right.
it's but there's so much work to be able to get on stage and be yourself and create your own persona and become successful with it. It's not an
Yeah.
overnight thing. And people that do get overnight success, they don't, I don't want to say they don't last, but it's not going to last as long.
I'm willing to struggle more than most people. That's an inherently, I think, a strength in some ways.
Or what are some of the craziest moments that you remember from Marty's?
Oh,
It happened to
well, I mean,
you?
the craziest thing was my mental breakdown. That was probably the craziest thing. That was obviously the one that takes the cake. I remember bits and pieces of it. There's been things that have explained to me that I honestly have no recollection of.
Man, I
Yeah, so that was the one that topped the cake. You remember was walking. I don't remember what I thought I was getting an HBO special, so I walked from Marty's down to the Comedy Store because in my head I thought I was going to get a congratulations party. I do remember that. That's one thing I remember. But I walked that's a 25-minute walk. So I walked up and down Sunset pretty much out of my mind. But yeah, I remember that. And then I remember thinking I was engaged to a girl I had a huge crush on in high school. I remember thinking I was going to run for president someday, even though I can't because I wasn't born here. Yeah, it was a lot of things happening at one time. That'd be like a whole long story I'd have to break down. Talk about that.
I mean, like at what point did somebody say anything to you? Because
Well, Eric Escobar was the guy you got to talk to. He's the one who called my parents. I found that. I later found this out, by the way. This was told to me because I don't remember most of the stuff. I don't remember. So, did you ever meet Eric Escobar? I don't know what tipped him off, but he came and saw me at Marty's, and then he called my parents and explained what happened. And he basically stayed with me until he could fly me out back to Idaho Falls.
do you think it was because of the stress of
Yeah,
living?
100%. It was everything. I mean, there was sign. I mean, my weight was loose. I lost a lot of weight pretty quickly. And in the last year, I lost about 15 pounds. My sleeping habits were gone. Like I was only sleeping maybe 5 or 6 hours a night if I was lucky. Yeah, and my mental health. Yeah, my mental health was clearly deteriorating. Like I could see. I mean, looking back, I could see it, but it was hard for me to know what was going on at the time.
Yeah. How did you heal yourself from that?
Probably about 2.5 months, and I basically was just home with my parents, basically, or back in Idaho Falls recovering. Like I wasn't able to really work. So, well, I was planning on moving to New York City anyway. That's the kind of funny
Oh, okay.
story. Yeah, so I was already planning on moving to New York City. The mental breakdown just kind of delayed it a little bit. But no, I was planning on. I think on some level, I subconsciously knew I can't last much longer out here. I think even I knew this isn't going to be good for me if I stay here. So I knew like I had to get out. But yeah, I didn't expect to go out quite like the way I did. I still, it's weird. Even though I've been doing comedy for over 13 years, I still weirdly believe I can pull this off. I still think at some point I will make a living doing stand up. I don't know when, but I still feel like that's possible, even though it still feels like so far away.
Yeah. It could be tomorrow. It could be next week. You don't know when that event or breakthrough is
Who
going to happen.
knows? Who
Change.
knows? But I'm
Yeah.
still trying.
Eli Foster doing Peter
Yeah.
Allen and Carol Barrett Don't Cry Out Loud. Marty sucks.